And with sitting volleyball, it's not one of the more common sports played, right? So can you tell us the way that you train and what it takes to reach the elite level of competition that you find yourself at right now?
So being an elite athlete on a national team is very different because not like a college team where all of you are here and can practice every day. We're scattered all over the U.S. So we only get together once a month for about 3 days of training. And so a lot of the training falls back on us at home. And I just have my husband, myself. My husband plays volleyball, thankfully, and our 3 kids. And that's really my training team. And so we play in my living room is kind of where a lot of my training has fallen because cost of babysitters and cost of training and cost of a gym all adds up. And so it's like, okay, do we want to spend X amount of dollars to go and get an hour when we're spending, 30 minutes each way traveling to get to this gym, or do we just make it up at home? And that's kind of where we've been. So we have all of our home equipment, and thankfully this whole past year and a half of COVID world, home gyms have really kind of upped the ante lately. Yeah. So our home gym is stocked, and that's where a lot of my training happens. And then we get together once a month, and we kind of make the best of it when we're all in the gym together in Oklahoma.
That's certainly a strong message to have for women looking to start families, especially in athletics. But you've had many parents reach out to you outside of athletics and ask about their children who are also going through disability. So what are some of the biggest pieces of advice that you have for them?
My message to parents, typically as kindly as I can, is don't limit your child's, not expectations, but their desires. Because when I was a kid, I was 11 when I was sick. And even in my teen years, I always felt awful for what my parents went through. Because for me, it wasn't as heavy because I was 11 years old. Kids are resilient. We can bounce back. For my parents, they were helpless, and there was nothing that they could do for me beyond sitting next to me and watching the effects of chemo and the toll that all of this took. But they also tried to put on a brave face for me when it was anything but easy for them. So when I've spoken to many parents whose child was just diagnosed with the same kind of cancer that I had, or they're considering the rotationplasty surgery that I had. And, as parents, our job is to keep our kids safe and to make sure that they're protected and to worry about everything. But a lot of parents that I've spoken to a couple years or months after they've gone through this ordeal, it's like you wouldn't even know any difference. That children are resilient, and anybody who's faced an obstacle like this, especially if you're an athlete beforehand, you will do everything in your power to become an athlete after. And although our job as parents is to protect, we also have to be able to support and allow for our kid to make mistakes, which is a really hard thing to let go of as a parent. And then especially you talk about a kid who is now not have 2 healthy legs, but a prosthetic, and they're trying to figure out, they're like baby deer out there trying to figure out how they're going to make it work. And whether they return back to able-bodied sports and they have to figure out a way to adapt their new body to their sport and figure out how their sport adapts to their new body. You've got to give them that chance to fail and to make those changes and to try a bunch of different stuff. And so usually I just tell them, let them explore kind of their new world and give them the grace to make mistakes and give them the chance to fall down a couple times, because life is all about adapting to challenges, whether it's a physical change that happens or an accident or an illness, or as we've seen in these last 18 months, the world shutting down. It's how you figure out how to move on afterwards that is the biggest show and test of character. And any cancer kid that's gone through this, and any cancer family sees what comes out on the other side. And you kind of get to this point where you become grateful for the cancer and the experience that you had, which is a really weird place to be because it takes so much from you. Yet, especially for me and a lot of the families that I know, it also opens up this entire different world. And so it's hard to be grateful for the ugly, but that's kind of where you come out of. And I think a lot of adaptive athletes can agree with that, is that even though there's some ugliness in the past, right now it's become just this beautiful journey. And it's hard to see when you're in the midst of it, and it's hard for parents to see, but it's really helpful for them when they're in their worst days to see that at the other side of it, there's a really cool life, even if it involves some titanium hardware that you didn't have beforehand, or some, it's different, but it's still amazing.
And I know you have the Olympics on the way and another child on the way, but have you thought about, dabbling into politics again?
I think we've got our plate full right now. I would not say no to it because it was such a huge necessary cause to get involved in, and I support some of the candidates that I know who are running again this year, but we are not in a place that we are going to take that on right now. I think my husband would run away if I told him, hey, by the way, in the middle of all this, we're going to run for office again. But it's not a definite no, but just not right now.